Braves Country today. We're talking Southern sports. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia. Home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Hey, Braves Country. Braves Country HD is bringing you Braves Country Baseball. Braves Country comes to you every Tuesday night and Friday night, and 2 bonus games every week. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we'll be bringing you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves. It's free to listen. Please like and subscribe. YouTube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country Baseball for the fans, by the fans.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge, so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
Braves Country today. We're talking Southern sports. We go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE. Braves Country today, Southern sports talk with the voice of Braves Country baseball, Mac McGee. Joined every day from sports analysts from all over Braves Country, talking college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and what's trending in the world of sports. Braves Country today. We go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles Veneer Special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
You're in Braves country.
Welcome in Braves country, as we are set for another show, 11 a.m. Mondays. Little slow getting to it today. I do apologize. We're a few minutes late. Had some personal issues that I couldn't get around. So anyways, the point is, let's get into it. All right. We're going to restart this sucker on the right way and get it going. I want to get the here we go. All right. One more time. Let's try this.
You're in Braves country.
All right, Braves country. Just in case the wife is watching, she wants to know I'm hydrated today, so I'm making sure that I'm staying hydrated. Had some little bit of a health scare yesterday, but I'm okay. I'm ready to rock and roll. This will be a shorter one than what we normally do because long day in front of me. I want to make sure I'm staying hydrated, et cetera, et cetera. But let's get into it. No one cares about that at this point, right? What's the famous line from the was it The Hangover? But did you die? No, I'm still here. So let's get into it. So the Atlanta Braves drop a tough one yesterday. I know everyone, including myself, probably overreacted when it happened. Let's be honest, Kirby Yates didn't have it yesterday. And I saw some comments back and forth on Twitter. What I'm going to say is this, the short of it. The Atlanta Braves had an opportunity to steal that game back, a game they really didn't play very well in. And when it was pretty damn obvious that Kirby Yates didn't have it, we would have liked to have seen them go to anybody else in the bullpen. Yates, for those of y'all who missed it, he walks in the winning run, but he does that after he walks the leadoff hitter and then hits the next two batters. Now, the first hit by pitch, first of all, Mistakes happen, right? But it was also barely got him, whatever, da-da-da-da-da. It's the next one, and you're going into this, and I get it, he had just struck out 2. So that's going to be the pushback, right? The pushback is going to be, he just struck out 2, you got to roll with him. But I think Braves fans would have liked to have seen anybody other than Kirby Yates, because he'd been so erratic facing Jock Peterson coming up in that at-bat. I think, even if you wanted to go Colin McHugh, we wouldn't have felt great about it. But Colin McHugh is not the pitcher that had just walked 2 and hit 1. So for those of y'all that missed it, the Braves lose a game in the 9th inning, essentially, where the Giants don't get a base hit. So when you give away runs like that, you're just not going to win. We move on. We did take 2 of 3 from the series. We have won 5 of our last 6. If you date it all the way back to the weekend before, 8 of our last 10. And you can see right there where the Braves are sitting atop the playoff race. Go ahead, move that down real quick just because Atlanta is sitting on top, so that's the obvious. 3.5 back are the Orioles. 4 games back for the best record of the Dodgers. Those are the main 2 we're paying attention to. Tampa Bay, not as concerned about them catching us, 6.5 back, and Texas literally has no shot. They're 8.5 back. There's 8.5 back, and we're closing in on September. That's a lot to ask. And they would not just have to catch us. They would have to run down Tampa Bay, LA, and Baltimore. So when you put all that together, you realize the sky isn't falling. We had a damn good week. Because you ended the week on a loss, it feels like the sky is falling at that very moment. But the Braves move that series aside. We win the series. We swept the Yankees. By the way, have you seen what the Yankees are doing? My God, they're falling apart. They've lost 8 in a row now. They are absolutely done. We'll get into the big picture here in a second. But I mean, that is horrific what's going on. When you consider the Yankees and their expectations, and it's much like the Mets, the difference being no one gets shocked when the Mets, even Mets fans don't get shocked when the Mets fall apart. But a Yankees fan doesn't expect the team to be kicking the ball over the way. I mean, if you watch that Yankees team, and we watched them for 3 games, but I caught 2 of the games on the weekend, bits and pieces of it. They're just not a good baseball team. They have no offense. I mean, 0 offense. I haven't seen the numbers, but I'd be willing to bet second half of the season, the Yankees have got to be at the very bottom. You never see them score a lot of runs. Their bullpen is the only strength they have. Their starting pitching is horrific. Garrett Cole is their stud. He got blown out the other day. So, but we'll talk more about that on the Wednesday show when the Sarge comes to talk to us on the 3 to 5 show. We talk a lot of American League East baseball then. But Braves' magic number to win the division is 26. Any way you look at it, we won yesterday because the Phillies lost. So 26 going into this week. What I would love to see, I don't know if it's feasible because you're relying on the Phillies to spit the bit. But what I would love to see is at the end of this week, the magic number be 20 or less. That's essentially us getting 4 wins and the Phillies getting 2 losses, which I think is doable. So I would like to see the number get down to 20 by the time we do this next week. I think there's a good possibility you could get below that, but 20 would be my, let's do this. Let's do 20, right? So magic number is now 26. And when you look at where it is for, so if you want to do the math in your head, people want to know how to do this. If you want to look at the overall number to how do I figure out the magic number? Okay. You see the Braves number of wins up there is 80, correct? You know that there's 162 games in the season. So subtract the wins and you get 82, but you have to add one because you need one more. So in other words, if you start this beginning of the season, if you do this at the very beginning of the season, the Braves' magic number to clinch is 163. And yes, I do start paying attention to it at the very beginning of the season, but just because it's a fun exercise, there's no real reason why you should pay attention to this anywhere prior to the All-Star break, probably not even until August. But in most scenarios, no one's even talking about a magic number till September. But you've got the 83 left, right? The next number you're going to look at, in this case, it's Dodgers or Orioles. It doesn't matter because the number you're looking at is the loss number, 47 of your opponent. Doesn't have nothing to do with the win. It's the loss number. So you see the Dodgers and the Orioles are still sitting at 47. You subtract those out, 83. You take 47 off, you get 36. And that's the magic number to clinch home field advantage, is 36. So a little bit more of a task. And it's why, look, I think it's kind of good to keep up with this. I hope the Braves players are keeping up with this because it's going to keep you sharper. It's going to keep you in more of a, win now mode. If you're just paying attention to winning the division, my God, you're miles in front of them. So there you have that. And real quick, we will take we always do. It's not really needed for where we're at in the season, but we will try to figure out why this thing is not. All right, here we go. So looking at the division, the Braves are now 13.5 in front of the Phillies, 17 in front of Miami, and the Mets are 23 out, and 24 out are the Washington Nationals. So obviously, you're looking at the Mets and Nationals about to be mathematically eliminated. Miami really isn't that far off, but there's still a prayer for Miami in a wild card scenario, though not very likely at this point. Okay, let's get into that. Let's get into the wild card scenario. And when you look at first of all, I do want to hit the AL wild card really quick, and then we'll jump into the senior circuit. So you look at the Rays, they've actually, and this is incredible to me, that they now have a 5-game lead over everybody, but it's more to do with the fact that everyone else is falling apart. Because Houston is now a half game in front of Seattle. Those are your wild card teams. A few weeks ago, Houston was actually on the outside looking in, though most people felt like Houston was going to start playing good baseball. I don't think anybody was really concerned about whether or not Houston was going to make the playoffs. I think a lot of us would like to see them miss the playoffs because they're the best team in the American League. I don't care what any of the other fan bases tell you. They are the best team in the American League. Top to bottom. Not just looking at the roster. Also looking at they are the best team in the American League. Pedigree, the wins they've had. I keep waiting for them to hit a wall because when you play that deep into October every year, but hey, it hasn't happened, and they're starting to catch their grip. I think their walls, they hit. Houston routinely gets out to a slow start. This is even before Dusty Baker. They just get out to a slow start, and then they really catch fire the back half, and that's what you're seeing now. So Tampa Bay is 5 in front of Houston, or 5 in front of the last wild card spot. They got the number 1 wild card scenario. Houston's number 2. Number 3 is Seattle. And I bring that up because right now, if the playoffs began today, 4 and 5 play each other. 6, who is Seattle, plays 3, which is Minnesota. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm going down the stretch and it's not going to cost me a playoff berth, I'm going to tank because I want to play Minnesota before I ever wanted to go into the Trop to play Tampa Bay for a 3-game series. Now, Tampa Bay doesn't look like Wander Franco issue's going to get resolved. But does that really cripple them? They never have household names, and they still go out there and win. They find now. Do I think Tampa Bay can run through it? No, I really don't. I just don't think Tampa Bay is going to be able to run through it. But if they face Houston in the first round, it would go to great leaps and bounds to get them there, because I like Tampa Bay's chances of knocking out Houston in a 3-game series at home than having to play them in a 5 or 7-game series, right? So that's what you have there. Now, just below Seattle, real quick, and then we'll jump into the National League. You got Toronto teetering there. They can't decide if they want to win or not. I mean, it's really is ridiculous. And then the Red Sox, after putting the sweep on the Yanks in the Bronx, they have a little more life left. They're 3 games out. There's still a long way to go. But this is going to be an interesting stretch for these 4 teams: Houston, Seattle, Toronto, and Boston. They're all separated by 3 losses in the loss column. All 4 of them. At this point in the season, you can't even look at the games back. Just look at the loss column. You look at Toronto's 1 game behind Seattle and Houston, who both have 55 losses, and Boston has 58. So down the stretch they come. I kind of have to give the edge to Seattle, because Toronto and Boston play in the AL East. It's going to be a tougher road. Seattle is going to be going up against teams like the Angels, who have fallen off and, for all intents and purposes, have given up. They've started calling up some of their prospects. So what are we talking here? We're talking about basically between Toronto, Boston, Seattle, and Houston. I do believe Houston's going to be fine. They'll find a way to get in. It's not the worst thing in the world if Houston doesn't get the 4 seed and gets to play Minnesota. And Minnesota's playing pretty good baseball. But I'm looking at the explosiveness of their lineup compared to the one thing that Minnesota would have in their favor is that it would be at home. But outside of that, you give me Framber Valdez, probably Justin Verlander to start game 1 and game 2 of that series. I'll take that all day long against, I mean, you got to figure Sonny Gray. Joe Nathan's about to come off the IL, but what has he done? I mean, he's been a pinata for the last couple of months. Now, maybe he gets back to beginning of the season form, but I don't think he has shut down the stuff. They do have Pablo Lopez, but you still like the idea of Verlander in the 2 game and Framber Valdez in the 3 game. There's a million ways that they could go in the 3rd game. Excuse me. But I kind of like the idea of, when you look at this, if we do get a Houston versus Minnesota, then that would mean we get Tampa Bay versus Seattle, or Tampa Bay versus one of the American League East teams. Baseball is better when the Red Sox are in the playoffs. So that's who I'm kind of pulling for to get in. Not a Red Sox fans per se, but it's better for the sport. They have a huge fan base. They get involved, and you never know what can happen as soon as you get into the dance. If you take the Red Sox out of the equation, the team that I would be pulling for to get in there is Seattle. Just because it's a good story. They've been playing really good baseball, and I think they've got a better chance to make a run. I give Toronto zero chance of making a deep run into the playoffs. If they get in, they're going to get smoked either in that first round or in the second round. They don't have the pitching. They still haven't addressed the fact that their bullpen is meh. They've got a couple of good guys at the very, very back of it, but that's it. All right, let's move on to the National League. As we're done with the junior circuit, let's get into the senior circuit. And we go to the wild card standings. And you see right now, Philadelphia has a 2.5 game lead above the Cubs. And you remember, you got to keep the Brewers in there because the Cubs and Brewers are going neck and neck down the stretch. But above the Cubs for the last wild card spot. In between that is San Francisco. We're going to see San Francisco again this weekend. We took 2 of 3 from San Francisco this week. It would be amazing if we did it, or I guess technically last week. It would be amazing if we could do that this week as we're going to San Francisco. I could even live with a series where we drop 2 of 3. As long as we take care of what we should take care of in the Mets series, and we'll get into that here in 1 second. But you look at the National League, you look at how it lays out. I don't believe you're going to get. So you got the Phillies, the Giants, and the Cubs. For those of y'all that can't see the screen. Right below them is a very interesting situation. Look, the talent is there for San Diego to make a run. The Mets have punted on the season, and they're still just a game back of San Diego, which is amazing. The Padres did not punt on the season, and they're 1 game in front of the Mets. So the Padres are 6 games out for the final playoff slot. 7 games back are the Mets. But I'm going to put those 2 teams aside because the Mets have punted. You think it's bad now. Wait till you get into September where you're going to get a true punting the end of the season when you get the rosters expanded. Because at that point, it's done. The Mets are going to start trying to see what kids can play, et cetera, et cetera. And they know they're not jumping all of these teams. They're not 7 games back from the wild card. Let's go. They're 7 games back from jumping San Diego, who's just in front of them. And then they got Miami, Cincinnati, Arizona, and the Cubs. And if you want to throw San Francisco in there, who's a half game in front of the Cubs. That's it. You can't make that up in 40 games. So you look at the NL wildcard, where it really comes down to me is the Marlins, even as poorly as they've played in the last few weeks, they're still hanging around. Now, later in the week, I'm going to handicap the schedules for these teams, but we don't have time to do that today. And make sure that you're tuning in live 3 to 5 on WQEE 99.1 FM. We're also here on a Braves Country HD on YouTube. Those shows are still here, and we'll see at 3 o'clock today. But you look at this stretch, and you've got Cincinnati and the Cubs. They're in the same division. Arizona and San Francisco, they're in the same division. And then Miami, they're not in the division of anyone else. You'd think, they kind of have but Philly is right there. So, and they do have some games left with Philly. If I'm handicapping it right now, I really liked Arizona to make the playoffs mid-season, but they really have not played that well. They also didn't go all in. They didn't go and get themselves fixed at the deadline, and some of their gaping holes are still showing. My heart of hearts wants to pull for the young teams, the Arizonas, the Cincinnatis. I can't pull for the Marlins. Sorry, Marlin fans, but your division rival, I just can't do it. But they are an exciting team. But the more exciting thing to me for the Major League Baseball playoffs would be for Ellie De La Cruz or Patrick Corbin to get in. The Cubs are a wild card type of team, and I mean that in the truest sense, in the fact that if they get in, you don't know what the heck they're going to do. Because they got a good mix of veterans and youngsters. But from the pure baseball fan in me, I would love to see a scenario where Arizona and Cincinnati find their way in. Not pulling against the Cubs or the Giants per se, but that would be fun to see those teams get in. If it ended today, Giants and Phillies in Philadelphia, Cubs would be at the Brewers. You'd have the Dodgers and the Braves on the bye. Conversely, in the American League, you would have the Tampa Bay Rays and the Rangers on a bye. And it is no longer too early to look at this. This is when it starts getting to the nitty-gritty. Most teams have played somewhere around enough games where you have about 38, some of them a little less, some of them one or two more, about 38 games left. The Atlanta Braves have played 123, so we actually have 39 games left. But most of the league somewhere in that 38 mark, give or take. And so when you look at it down the stretch, now obviously we're all pulling against Philly to not make it in there. It's not just because they're division rivals. They're a dangerous team once they get in because of that offense. I still contend in whatever kind of series we would face the Phillies, which would be in the second round, not in the first. This Braves offense and that Braves bullpen, all they need from our starting pitching is for them to show up. That gets to our next topic. All right. If you missed the news, it was broken later yesterday. I put it in the chat during the game yesterday, and it was a tweet from, I believe it was Bowman. It was one of the MLB writers. It's not really the point. The point was people were trying to read the tea leaves on who would start for the Atlanta Braves. And there was a tweet that came out, almost positive it was Bowman. And he said, if you're trying to figure this out, the starter that was supposed to start yesterday in Gwinnett was Alan Winans. He did not get the start. Instead, it was, I believe Jackson Stevens is the one that got the go. But anyway, you look at it, the Atlanta Braves ended up bringing Alan Winans up this morning. And with that, everyone's like, well, they're going to DFA Chirinos. No, they put him on the IL. So they put the old, I call it phantom IL card out there, where the guy's not ready. He's not really on the IL because he's hurt. He's on the IL to manipulate. Look, he's not going to argue with it because it means that he doesn't get DFA, which means he continues to get paid. If you're on the IL, much like, take someone, for example, Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson is currently on the Braves roster, though he's on the 60-day IL because of Tommy John. You continue to make your money because they want to protect you. So it cost the Braves a little extra money in the end. If they thought there was nothing they could do with Yonny Chirinos, they would boot him. And if he makes it around to him, he makes it around to him. So that part of it, that's the nuts and bolts of the business decision side of it, right? But they put Yonny on the 15-day IL. They backdated it to August 20th, which was yesterday. And it was the 15-day IL. What does that mean? When he is ready to come off the IL, we're going to be past the magic day of September 1st. 1 week from Friday. Why is that day huge in baseball land? Because it's when rosters expand. For folks who may not be familiar with this, you go from a 26-man roster to a 40-man roster. Each day, now this is the thing that's changed over the years, each day you will select 28 of those gentlemen to be on your roster for the day. So for argument's sake, the other 12 guys on the roster are it's basically a glorified taxi squad. They'll be there at the facility. If you need them in a pinch, you can put them on, but they're not active for that night. And one question that I've gotten before is, well, what about in the middle of the game if you need them, et cetera, et cetera? Now, you could not activate them in the middle of the game. So you couldn't play that. You couldn't play that nonsense where you need an extra lefty out of the bullpen. You say, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and bring him up. No, it can't. You can't do it in the middle of the game, but you can do it right after. So it's a little bit of roster manipulation for the Atlanta Braves. They went out and they put Yonny on the IL. I've contended about a little less than a month that he's been with us, that this was going to be the game plan all along. I thought they were going to do it a little earlier. I didn't think he would get the start that he got. Saturday, or is more wishful thinking, but he did get the start. He got blown up again for people who might have missed the game. And this is where we sit. So with all that being said, he'll be available probably more in a bullpen role down the stretch to eat innings. And he would be an emergency guy in the playoffs. A guy that, man, so-and-so got hurt, keep him stretched out. Yonny's going to come in and try to eat as many innings as he can. Because he is a veteran. He's got playoff experience from Tampa. See, you're not putting someone out there but in a perfect scenario, this guy does not pitch in October. We've seen it. He's batting practice. You're lucky to get him through the lineup once. The Braves tried to push him through a third time, which was absolutely insane. And we've seen it. This is 3 starts in a row where he tries to get through the third time through the lineup. No fault of his own. He just doesn't have it. And major league hitters tee off on him. Even San Francisco, who has one of the lower scoring offenses in the league, they teed off on him. So what does it mean for the immediate future? It means Alan Winans is coming up tonight. Alan Winans getting a start. How about that? And we love to see that. I'm becoming a fan of Alan Winans, although I don't think he has great stuff. He's just fun to root for. And the main reason why I enjoy watching him pitch is it because he does a very good job of trying to get through with what he's got. Now, he's got low 90s fastball. He will try to keep them off balance with a couple of off-speed pitches. But remember, the last time he pitched, just happened to be 10 days ago against the New York Mets. What did he do with the Mets? And that really didn't play into effect because that was the roster expanded day. So in theory, they could have brought Winans up Saturday, had him start, et cetera, et cetera. But he went up against, now this was that was the early game against the Mets. Don't expect the same kind of domination that you got that day. But this was the early game against the Mets. Winans went out there and pitched a really impressive game against what was basically a backup, a AAA squad for the Mets. That was the one that was the day game. We're playing the night. It was a split doubleheader, and there were guys out there, were Mets fans going, who are these guys? And he went out there. He threw 111 pitches that day, by the way. 80 of them for strikes. And struck out 9. He walked 2 over 7 scoreless innings. Just don't have those kind of expectations for today. That's all I'm saying. The Mets will most likely have their typical starting lineup in. But if Winans can get us through 5, in a perfect scenario 6, keep us in the game, we're going to have a chance to win this game. And we're going up against, drum roll please, if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, I do apologize, but if you have seen it, the Atlanta Braves are going to face David Peterson. David Peterson is sitting there with a 3-7 and a 5.45 ERA. And we all know what Peterson is. He's a lefty that really belongs in the bullpen, but the Mets keep trying to push him into the starting role. And he can come out and pitch well the first few innings and look pretty good, but teams tend to get to him the second time through the lineup. Now, the Braves own left-handed pitching. So advantage Atlanta in this game. I expect the Braves to win this game and to win the series, obviously, because the Mets are not what they thought they were going to be. But we'll get to the prediction of the game here in 1 second. Tomorrow's game, if you're looking at it through the big picture of what the Braves are looking at this week, it'll be Tyler McGill, who the Braves have slapped around a little bit as well, versus Bryce Elder. A big advantage Atlanta Braves. McGill is going to come in with a 7-6 and a 5.53 ERA. Bryce Elder pitched much better his last time out. They're giving him an extra day of rest. I would be shocked to see Bryce Elder not go out there and pitch a really good game. Wednesday night, the Atlanta Braves are going to roll out Charlie Morton versus Quintana. That is the Mets' best chance to win the game, is Wednesday night. Jose Quintana, he's a lefty, which the Braves hit well, but he is a crafty lefty. And though don't look at his 1-4 ER record, he's got a 3.03 ERA. He hasn't pitched much because he spent the first part of the year on the IL. His 2 starts ago was against Atlanta, and that was the second part of the doubleheader. That was the game against the Mets where we played Saturday night, and it was Strider on the mound. Braves won at 6-0. Strider looked really good that night. But the 6 runs, that was not at the hands of Quintana. He gave up 1 earned run, 6 innings pitched. And what did he throw? 104 pitches that night? You have to expect Quintana is going to go out and give them a quality start. So if we're going to have any chance to sweep this series, obviously you got to win the last game. Obviously you got to win the first 2 to get there, but if you're going to win the last game, we're going to need to see more of Charlie Morton, what he looked like last time out. And look, it's time for Charlie to start hitting that next gear and being more consistent. And even though it's the Mets with some pretty talented players in the lineup, the Mets offense has a lot of holes in it. I mean, you can go ahead and call it Swiss cheese, whatever you want to do. So I like our chances to win a higher scoring game tonight. I think tomorrow, the Bryce Elder versus McGill, the Braves, I'd be willing to take the run line on that. I would probably take the team total over for the Braves as well, whatever it ends up being. I think the Braves will get the team total over tonight. We'll get in the line here in 1 second. And then the game on Wednesday, which is going to be, to me, the Mets' best chance to win. Let's just assume, and I know it's a big assumption, that the Braves win Monday and Tuesday. You get a chance to sweep the Mets and really, really put a statement on the Phillies. And by the way, the Phillies are hosting the Giants at this time. So our magic number, I told you how I want to see it get down to 20. Our magic number, 20 by the end of the week, our magic number could be close to 20 by the time we hit the Friday series where we go out to San Francisco, because they're playing the Phillies in a 3-game set. And in that Phillies series, the Giants, if they just get one, but if they get two, look out. And we don't have time to go into it right now. We'll probably do it later, but I was looking at the pitching matchups. I kind of like the pitching matchups for San Francisco in that series. Tonight's going to be their toughest test. They haven't announced a starter for tomorrow, so it'll probably be a bullpen game. But the Giants, let's say they just win one, we sweep the Mets. That's going to get the magic number down to 22 before we ever hit the weekend. But you can never assume a sweep in Major League Baseball. We took 3 out of 4 last week with the Mets, but it's really hard to assume a sweep. Everything has to fall into place right. You have to not tax your bullpen much in the first couple of games. You have to be hitting well. Everything's got to fall well. But I do believe the Braves win the series. We will keep it with that. And as far as tonight's game, with Peterson on the mound, a lefty, and Winans on the mound, I don't think he'll have quite as dominant a performance, but I think he'll go out there and pitch well. Give me the Braves to win tonight. Let's say I'm going to take Atlanta to win this one with Peterson on the mound. 8-3. 8-3. So I would say that the over-under is probably going to be somewhere around the 10 range. I would probably take the over. As long as it's not too astronomically high. But I would probably take the over. You hope that it's lowered because of the, I'm not going to call them phony stats by Winans, but from a glance, from afar, Winans' numbers are much more impressive than if you open it up and go, oh, this is who he played against. So there you have that. All right. Let's get on out of here. This is Braves Country Brunch. We'll be here on Mondays, 10 a.m. Normally not this long, but got kind of on a roll. Plus, we were a little late starting. I do apologize, but had kind of a rough day yesterday. But everything's fine. Everything's fine. We'll see you at 3 o'clock. Y'all have a great afternoon, Braves Country. Braves Mets. And we'll talk a lot more about the National Football League and College Football Day today on Braves Country. It's the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State. I believe tomorrow is Alabama, but it's the Florida State Seminoles today. We'll be back at 3. See y'all then.
You're in Braves Country.